This is Kathryn Goetzke, host of the Hope Matrix podcast. We are here to share science, stories, and strategies for how to hope. I'm the Chief Hope Officer of the Shine Hope Company, and Shine is the mnemonic for how we teach hope. So when we talk about hope, we talk about how we use stress skills, happiness habits, inspired actions, nourishing networks, and eliminating challenges, which are our thinking patterns that get in the way of our ability to hope. Hope is a skill. You can measure hope, you can teach hope, and you can start practicing skills to activate higher hope in your life today. And on this Hope Matrix podcast, we aim to bring in guests, experts in science, people with stories, and those that have strategies for activating hope in your life. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hope Matrix podcast. This is your host, Kathryn Goetzke. I'm CEO of the Shine Hope Company and founder of iFred, and grateful to be with you here today to talk about all things hope. So if you haven't listened before, hope is measurable, and actually we've shown that it's a teachable skill. And, I've learned the most about hope from talking to other people about their own stories and how they navigated, challenges. And so studied it around the world, and we created this evidence-based framework called Shine, where we teach how to hope using skills. And so we bring guests on this podcast that have gone through some significant challenges in life, and they share their own stories about how they shined hope. So I am very grateful today to have Miss Michelle Cooper with us. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. You were recommended to me, I believe, through Rain. Is that right? Yes. Yeah. How do you know Rain?
Rain and I worked together for years, and we're just good friends.
Oh, that's amazing. And you're in Austin. She's in Austin, right?
Yep.
Oh, what a great city. So welcome. Why don't you give us first just a little background about who Michelle is? Yeah.
So I have a degree in polymer chemical engineering, whatever the heck that is, but that was a long time ago. Myself here. And I spent 30 years in the chemical industry and then in high tech when I moved to Austin. And my last job in corporate America, and I'll tell you why it's the last here in a second, was the vice president of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So up to that point, I had always been in technical roles or operations where I led manufacturing, engineering, planning, all of those types of things. But in the end, my dream job, or what I thought was my dream job, came open, and I bid and interviewed for that job and ended up getting it. So that was my last 2.5 years in corporate America. And then in June of last year, I left corporate America and have opened my own coaching business. I'm in the process of final stages of coaching certification with Berkeley Executive Coaching Institute. And my maiden name is Mapp. And so my new business is the Mapp Co. And yeah, I'm just really enjoying virtually new life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's quite the jump from engineering to DEI. And then to coaching. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was always interested in leadership, even like I was my high school class president. So I was interested in what motivates people to give their best and do their best.
Yeah.
And then I was really interested, obviously, when I showed up at engineering school and was one, we were 8 of 54 women. And so being the other, I was always interested in, what makes people that are othered thrive? Like why, what are the key elements that make people reach their full potential? So I've always been interested in that. I've always been in that space. And so other executives that applied when that job came open, they didn't want people from the outside, Applied Materials. They didn't want people from the outside. They wanted somebody from the inside because we were doing a culture shift. And I had just done a big project that required change management, an ERP software transition. And so they people called me and said, we want you to bid for the job. Yeah. So it wasn't me necessarily like, I want to move to HR. But it was an opportunity for sure, to do what the work that I really loved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Did you come across Hope Science at all in that role out of curiosity?
It more along the lines of belonging,
Uh-huh.
you know, um, and people just want to be seen and heard.
Yeah.
And I think, you definitely see that hopelessness or checking out at work, you've heard about this quitting on the job kind of thing, is when people are not seen and heard.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and it sounds so simple, but, in corporate America, we've become very focused on the shareholder and not on the employee. And so people forget that the employees are what make the shareholder value happen. And so, it's super simple concepts, but a lot of managers and leaders either don't have time, they don't have the EQ, they don't have the inclination, they aren't rewarded for it. So, yeah, that was really the mission, was not just to bring, seeing and hearing our employees, but also, yeah, that hope, that pride, all of those things that make you want to do good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a business imperative. It's not a nice to have.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems so clear to me when I dove into Hope Science, and hope came up as a top four need of employees by the Gallup did a big study on strengths-based leadership. And yeah, so it just, yeah, so and hope is all about seeing what you want in your future and then having skills and abilities to get it. And so and as we'll talk, recognition and that is part of our N and our nourishing network, but it is so important. You've got to be recognized and seen for what you contribute. And if you don't feel valued, why would you value? So it's, yeah. So that's great that you had some time to do that before you jumped out on your own. Pretty amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. And so our goal here, I mean, and my goal really, and the company's goal is to normalize our conversation around hopelessness and really demystify what it is. We talk about it so much. And, I've talked to people who are like, that's not me. And when you look at what hopelessness is and you break it down, it's emotional despair. So you feel sad, angry, afraid, and then helpless to do anything about it. So and it's the combination of those two that really create that sense of hopelessness. And, I would argue that we all experience moments of hopelessness all the time, and it's just learning how to manage them in healthy ways. And then the more challenges we have, the more moments of hopelessness we have. And then when it becomes persistent, it becomes a disorder, clinical anxiety or depression. And so, yeah, I mean, Rain shared a little bit about your story, but I would love to hear it from you. And you went through many, many significant challenges in one small time period.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I can imagine it was just one moment after another. And so if you can, share a little bit more about what you went through in your experience with our listeners.
In 2000, I'll start a little bit farther back than we talked about before, but in 2018, my husband had not been feeling well. At the time, he was 46, I think, and just having trouble exercising, just not feeling well, shortness of breath. Had been to every doctor on the planet. I mean, asthma doctor, blah, 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 right? And it was April of 2018, and my big project that I mentioned earlier was going live in 3 months. Those 7,000 people's jobs were changing, $65 million budget, big project. And so I was obviously stressed out, not really paying attention to what was going on. And for a week, he basically sat in a chair. He took a week off of work. He was just so sick. And so we got into a cardiologist, and I really forced the issue. Hey, we need to know what's going on, period, full stop. And so he had a heart catheterization, and they diagnosed him with pulmonary hypertension, which is so rare that 15 to 50 people in a million in a million get diagnosed with it a year. It's usually a follow-on disease. It's high pressure in your lungs. So you usually get it from COPD or from heart failure or from something else. It usually is not the root disease. And so that was our diagnosis. And at the time, I knew it was terminal, but I didn't all the research that I did when I look back on it was in the positive direction because I was absolutely determined that he was going to live. Because in our past, we had had a child via IVF after being told we would not have a child. And so I was like, no, our love can make miracles happen. This is going to, my organizational skills alone will make him live. And so I just was so determined, and he was on a continuous IV medicine that opened up his blood vessels to allow. And in 2019, he was playing tennis. So that's how much better. Got. In the same year, 2018, my father had a heart attack. Yeah. So, but I mean, on the positive sides of that, I had an amazing team at Applied Materials. The project was 100% success, no major issues. We were still able to operate as, a $20 billion company. So kind of important. And everything was fine. Flash forward to 2021, and we do COVID, and I felt like his care was definitely less in COVID because his caregivers were pulmonologists. So obviously, they were focused on everybody dying from COVID. And so, I think maybe we didn't pay as close attention as we had in the previous years. So we come into 2021, and in January, he has a heart catheterization, and the numbers are not good. And so we immediately start our work to get on the lung transplant list. And they don't do lung transplants in Austin. And we have family in Dallas that are surgical residents. I mean, we're very privileged, very, very blessed to have support. And so we are working on the lung transplant list. To get on that list is a big deal. You have to do a lot of things and a lot of tests and psychologists and everything, right? And meanwhile, my dad is also dying. He's got heart failure at this point. Didn't do what the doctors told him. So I have my father that doesn't want to live and my husband who desperately wants to live. I'm the only child. Trying to manage all of that, right? And so my dad dies in April of 2021, and I did end of life care, by the way. Hospice at the house.
Yeah.
It was a lot. It was a lot. They don't really help you as much as you think they're going to help you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't peaceful, and it wasn't, people are like, oh, I was so privileged to be there. No, none of that.
Yeah, that wasn't your experience. Oh,
It was rough. And so he was okay. And then in August, he had a major incident that I won't go into here, but we went to the hospital for the last time. And so he died in Dallas. He was airlifted from Austin to Dallas because, again, his cousin at Baylor in Dallas was determined to get him this transplant. And so he fought the amount of support we had, back to your network.
yeah, right.
How much support. But he did die on September 6th of 2021. So, and I was interviewing for my job, for the vice president job while he was in the hospital, because the head of HR was like, no, I don't want you to drop out. And I was saying, I have to drop out. I can't do this. And she was saying, no, our executives want you. They want you. So here I am, single mom, my partner's gone, and he really was the parent. He was in purchasing his whole career, but he did all the grocery shopping, all the cooking, all the house. We have a pool. I had never, he designed it. He built it. I didn't even know who built it. Like, I didn't know how
Right.
He was not, he was on his game. He was on his action items. There was no took care of stuff. He was not irresponsible. He was very responsible. And, I have basically an 11-year-old. And here I am supposed to show up as the parent, and I'm supposed to be the vice president. And my mom is sort of a wreck because her husband of 54 years is gone. Yeah, it was rough. Rough. The only good thing about grief is that you are so in a fog that you feel that helplessness and despair, but you know that that's what you're supposed to feel.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, I never went to a depth of, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
If Barron wasn't here, if my child wasn't on the planet, maybe would have gone to Costa Rica and probably never came back. If my mom didn't need me, maybe would have disappeared and gone, somewhere on a beach and just said, see you later. But
Yeah. Yeah.
sorry.
No, no need to be sorry at all.
Because I had that network, we survived it. And I have an amazing therapist. And so does Barron. So,
Yeah.
we have done the work. It's
Yeah.
the other side.
Yeah. And it's an ongoing, continual work, It's not like it just,
Yeah.
you do the work and it's the grief comes, all the time.
And I've talked to so many, it's funny because people around you think divorce is similar. When they become single moms and they're like, oh, we have sort of the same experience. I'm like, no, we don't.
Yeah, right.
I liked my husband. I wanted him. I loved him to death. I could. I wanted him to stay.
Yeah.
So he had a terminal diagnosis. I was shocked that he died.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
How dare that happen?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, I think you have all the emotions. And they hit you just like that just hit me.
I know. Yeah. No, it's yeah. Yeah. All the time for me. I still sometimes get on my knees and it's just the grief,
Yeah.
it's just so overwhelming. I mean, to me, I thought the grief itself would kill me. I've thought if I went into the grief, it was so
Yeah.
heavy and hard and that I'm like, I'll never get out of it.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of people's process is to just push it away, push it down.
Yeah.
I didn't have that luxury because of my child.
Yeah.
Knew that I had to work on it and I had to be in the space.
Yeah.
And so I did what I do. I'm an engineer. I read multiple books. I went to grief support classes. I worked it, I just didn't let it happen to me. I actively engaged in it. And Dr. Alan Wolfelt from the Center for Loss and Transition is he's my favorite writer on the topic. And he talks about, he did a book called, I'm not going to get, I wish I would have looked it up, Losing Your Soulmate or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really cool book because he starts with what are all the attributes that made that person. So it's not always your spouse. It can be your sister or your mom or, whatever. And what are all the attributes? And then after, it's everything from, humor to, how you fought to, how you show up for each other and always have each other's backs and all that stuff. And it's a workbook. So you fill all this stuff out. And then he transitions to, well, this is how you're going to be able to live through this. Mm-hmm. Because you were able to be a soulmate and show up for this person when they were alive, you are going to use those exact same traits to survive it.
Yeah.
And not only survive it, step 6 is how do you reinvent yourself to be this whole new person? Because you're not the person you were before you met them. You can't.
Right. Yeah.
Mm. And so it's just such a powerful. I've done the workbook 3 times now and 4 years to see if it's like, and it is changing. I'm still not quite to step 6. Like I'm in the define the shell process, but I'm not, I don't have like the one word, well, now I'm whatever that's, yeah,
Yeah.
an executive anymore. I'm not, so yeah.
Yeah.
He's been my favorite by far. And the thing that really got me through was every time you feel the grief, it is a reflection of the love.
Yeah.
And that's why it hurts so damn bad.
I know. Yeah, it's a beautiful way to look at it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just tells us how deeply we care, how deeply we love. And that's such a blessing.
Yeah. It's all people are like, you were so lucky to have him. Yeah, I get that. But the things you miss are the stupid things. We were best friends. Like we loved to hang out. We had a ton in common. And it's the little things that I miss. And of course, every time I take out the trash, especially the recycling,
Uh-huh.
every Wednesday, oh, Bill, come on, man. Like, where are you? I hate it. The tasks that he did and all the things that he made our life, and having to learn how to do the pool and learn, all those things you miss and all the secondary losses
Yeah.
hurt just as bad as the primary loss. And people don't get that.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you, the S in our shine is kind of our skills for our stress skills. Like, how do we manage our grief and our anger and our fears, all of that in healthier ways? So how were you able to process and I mean, it sounds like you learned a lot, like you use that as a time to learn about ways to navigate these kinds of things, which can be so helpful, you know. Um,
I learned a lot, but also when it got too hard, as I said, I'm in therapy, and this year, we're 4 years after the period of August and September. I was just a wreck. Like I think all the shock is gone, the distraction of work is gone. I'm just here, and it was a super hard year in 2024. And so my therapist recommended all kinds of things, including drugs. And I mean, like I had
yeah,
days. I mean, I was just a wreck. And you can't be a parent, and be a wreck at the same time.
yeah,
And so I did EMDR.
yeah, great.
Highly, highly recommend. It's
Yeah, it's amazing.
super hard. Oh
Yeah,
my goodness.
yeah,
But it definitely provided relief. And so one of the things that I've really tried to be, so as an engineer again, I've always thought that you control everything, right?
right. I
And
know.
but no, that's why I was shocked he died. Like I'm gonna engineer this bitch. It's not gonna happen. It's not
Right.
gonna happen. And how dare that happen? And so, the lessons that I really learned on this journey to manage stress and to come to that realization is, one, we don't control anything.
I
None of
know.
this is my fault.
Yeah,
We're just not in control.
yeah,
Control our reactions to things.
yeah,
This is not, I didn't do this. This is
yeah,
not, I didn't ask for this. There was nothing I could have done about it.
yeah,
He could have done about it. He did
yeah.
everything right. I'm talking about, I mean, like the lung transplant people were like, you need to teach a class on low sodium diets. You
Right.
like the man, right?
Uh-huh.
He did everything right. Everything.
Yeah,
And so to realize that you don't control outcome
yeah,
has been a huge stress relief for me because it helps you understand that you're only responsible for today, and you're only responsible for how you're going to react to what happens today.
Yeah.
And all this worrying and guilt and shame,
No.
ugh,
Uh,
all of that, it just doesn't matter.
yeah.
The other thing that I've done is write my life story.
Mm.
So and I'm turning it into a book, because it's got lessons in it. I don't know that I'll ever publish it, but it's called Time Doesn't Give a Shit and Other, because I was shocked by how agnostic time is.
Yeah.
You know, you're in absolute pain and the next day just comes.
I know.
It doesn't care.
And yeah.
Yeah. The time's moving on. The task.
Yeah.
But that has been a huge way to manage stress and manage grief and despair, is to just look at all of the times in my life that I had challenge and persisted.
Yeah.
And so and there's an exercise called River of Life that we use in coaching, where you write down, what are all the twists and turns in your career life. And, 10 out of 10 people, once you look back on that, you're like, wow,
I know.
I,
Yes.
I've been through a lot.
Yeah.
I'm tough.
Yeah.
We can make it, we can make it through this thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's actually, and that's why we have people write their shine hope stories
Yeah.
about something they've overcome in the past. How did they navigate it? What healthy ways did they use to navigate? We choose a lot of unhealthy ways, but if we can learn from the healthy ways, then when we have a challenge in the future, and we know this through studies, that you're more likely to overcome that challenge by remembering, I've been through hard things. This may be a different hard thing, and yet I can do this. It's so important for us to recognize that and journal.
It reduces the fear of the next thing that's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Survive this thing.
Right.
Challenging you, universe. So please.
Right.
Good.
Yeah. Don't test me.
Yeah, don't test me. I'm fine. But yeah, I think it also, again, that lack of control over big events, that it reduces stress, because you're just like, doesn't serve me.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up EMDR. EMDR is so good. I've done a lot of EMDR because I'm so analytical, and I want to I'm a problem solver, and so it's like I just want to fix it in my mind. And so it was hard for me to get into my emotional heart space. And the EMDR, the techniques kind of distracts that analytical mind and gets you, right in, as has breath work for me, which has helped me so much get in touch with the emotional component so that it flows way more easily than it ever used to. But man, I had some guards up, again, and I feel like EMDR is a great way to just kind of confuse us, to allow us to release, and it's
Yeah.
so great.
I had just told myself this story because that was the night that he had the incident and we went to the emergency room. I had just woven, I couldn't get rid of the visuals. And so that's why I couldn't sleep, and it would just replay, right? And I had this reinforcing story of hopelessness and helplessness.
Yeah.
I didn't do enough, and I didn't try hard enough. And, the hospital was overrun with COVID. It was one of those spikes, of the folks who decided to not get vaccinated. I'm sure that's a different show. Anyway, so we couldn't get a bed in the ICU. And, so, and I could not. And so once you went down and relived that on the emotional level, back to your story that I'd been telling, I started to think about all the people that helped us and how hard I did try,
Yeah.
and how much I fought and how nasty I was to some people. But, and I was like, wow, that story I told myself was not actually what was happening.
Yeah.
It helps me rewrite it.
Right. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah.
But it's definitely more hopeful.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and a couple of things I want to just comment on too. One is the amazing, I think the hope that you had for your husband while he's here. I mean, a lot of people say, how can you have hope when if you have a terminal illness or and it's the quality of life we live while we're still here and what we do in the moment and how we stay engaged and how we interact in our relationships and our willingness and to see miracles and to think of the possibilities and to believe, because miracles do happen all the time and we can't be attached to that happening, attaching to that outcome and yet pursuing that. And there's a lot of research that the doctor's hope for their patients is sometimes more predictive of patient outcomes than the patient's hope. And so and a lot of doctors don't have very hopeful outlooks for patients and so I always say it's so important as a patient, as a caregiver, to be solid in your hope for, your future and to keep doing the stuff, as if miracles can occur and to live as much in the moment and to take as much care of yourself in the moment and all of that is possible. And I just see how I'm sure your hope for him and prolonged his life and his quality of life, while he was here. And it's so critical. I had a recent interview where it was with a physician and she said, I was in doing rounds and the physician came in and he was like, yeah, well, this is like hopeless. The doctor said that. And she said from that moment on, the patient's health just, went down and just, yeah. So it's important for us as humans. And I've had other guests that have said, you're you're not likely to walk again or I had a face transplant that you can't have a face transplant over 50, but it was the patient's knowingness and taking the steps and seeing the vision and continuing, so it's so important that we cultivate our internal sense of agency and hope and don't necessarily depend on those in authority to provide that for us. So I think it's so special and wonderful that you did that,
Yeah,
Um,
you must advocate for yourself.
yes.
I mean, yeah, you must.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially my parents' generation, they think that doctors are just know everything and you just listen to them.
Right?
What they say, because my dad certainly didn't do what they said. Certainly not.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I was that wife at the hospital. I mean, we were nice to everybody for sure, and everybody loved Bill because he was awake in the ICU. He was just on a very dangerous medicine that could kill you if you didn't manage it correctly. And so, all of the ICU when we got a helicopter to take him to Dallas, again, very privileged. And and all of the ICU nurses came in to say goodbye to him. He was intubated, so he didn't know it, but I knew it, because everybody at Seton in Austin wanted to say goodbye to Bill because he had been such a good patient and so nice. But we also were on our game. Like I talked
Yeah.
to houses around our neighborhood how to manage his medicine and what to do and what not to do.
Oh my gosh.
I wrote a standard operating procedure on how to manage his pump should I not be here, and I laminated the pages so that you would have step 1, do this, step 2, do this. Yeah, I mean, you
Yeah.
have to own your own health and you
Yeah.
have to advocate for yourself or yeah, the
Yeah.
care system, they're just too busy. I don't
Right.
have people, I just think they're like, okay, who's next?
Right, right. On to the next thing. Yeah, and that's our I is inspired actions and, setting goals, chunking things down, outlining things, making processes. I mean, it seems like your brain was wired for that, which is awesome. A lot of brains aren't. So do you have any suggestions or tips for other people? I mean, yeah, how do you do that? How are you so organized?
I think, um, yeah, I think exactly what you just said. You don't get overwhelmed by the big chunks. You just take the next step the next day,
Yeah.
when I look at all of the major changes in my life, and again, I've just written my whole life story, mostly for my son. Um, you know, I think I just kept moving forward. I set the next small goal and the next small thing and the next small thing. You know, I'm a big list maker. I love to strike. Now when I'm starting this business, I strike stuff off the list, and then obviously I'm coaching others on goal setting and holding them accountable, and so that's been really fun. But yeah, I think it's just keep moving.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like to one. What's that?
Even if you think something doesn't count or it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think too, writing down instructions of how to do things, especially when it's a crisis time.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong with his medication or his equipment, I mean, then we go in crisis mode. And when we're in crisis mode, especially, we go into our downs. We can't think clearly. We can't. So having something you can just kind of look at and check off, so helpful. And
That's an engineering practice. That is actually an engineering process called failure modes effects analysis.
I
It's way similar to that. It is
Yes.
scenario planning, everything that can go wrong, just exactly what you said, and then putting a plan for each of those things that can go wrong so that when it goes wrong, you just have the playbook. You just grab it. I know what I'm going to do. Right.
Yes.
And so that is what we used in the big project I talked about. That is what I use for decision making. If you're spiraling on, oh my God, this is going to go wrong, and then you think about, well, what's the worst thing that could happen? What is the absolute worst thing that could happen? Generally, you're like, "Oh, not that bad."
Right. Yeah. Get out of my worry mode. Back into the present moment.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. What is it called again? What's the process called?
Failure modes effects analysis, FMEA. And then if you're doing a process, failure modes effects analysis is like chemical engineering on a plant. You don't want it to blow up.
Right.
But process, PFMEA, is when you're looking at a process and you're saying, okay, what are all the things that could go wrong?
Yeah.
You can also do it the other way, which is what are all the things that went right and what you do to make it go right if you want a more hopeful approach.
Yeah. Well, they did some research on hope and that going through that process of envisioning something you want and then envisioning what will go wrong, what the obstacles will be, and then envisioning yourself overcoming those obstacles,
There you go.
make you more likely to reach your goal, whether you encounter that problem or another obstacle, or because you build your self-efficacy, you build your knowing that like, I can do hard things. I've overcome things, I just have to, innovate around it. It's when we like get stuck in our emotions and run from it, as opposed to embrace our emotions and kind of like use them as energy to navigate our way through.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And I just think of all our kids all over the world that if they could just like learn how to channel that energy, into instead of self-destruction or destructing other people, into innovation. Like I think that is the key to innovation is that like, when you have all that angst and then like, how can I solve this? How can I fix it? And that's, been a lifesaver for me for sure.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, the E, you talked about a number of things in the E, eliminating challenges to hope, which are negative thinking patterns that get in the way of our ability to hope. So our rumination, our trying to control things outside of our control, internalizing failure. So like this failed, so I'm a failure. So our biases, so many things. And it sounds like you had some um good ways to kind of navigate those challenges. I think as you mentioned, some of them keep us up at night, all night. We don't sleep, and when we stop sleeping, then we can't solve our challenges. I mean, it's just kind of this, cycle. Is there anything else you found at night that helped you?
I so let me just say, as a woman in menopause, that sleep has eluded me. So I'm not I have tried tons of things.
Uh,
Yeah. So I'm not even going to speak like I've got that one figured out because
have you tried Dramamine? I take Dramamine.
oh yeah,
Dramamine.
Benadryl.
No.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but the commitment I made in the last 6 months is to move my body every day and still my body every day. So
Yeah.
I am closing my exercise ring or
Nice.
day,
Yeah.
and I'm meditating every single day. Um, and it has been a game changer for me. You mentioned breath work. I'm doing breath work now. Because I don't have any more excuses. And I totally understand people that have full-time jobs that say, I don't have time for that. I totally get it. But had I done this when I was working, I think I would have been a better executive,
Yeah.
because my cup would have been more full. So I am trying to do both of those things, which enable the negative self-talk to be less.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say gone,
Yeah.
but I would say less, for sure. And I did, in this process of redefining myself, I did the Brene Brown's values exercise.
Uh,
And
yes.
woo, and that also really helped with clarity of knowing when I'm at odds with my values. Either I'm doing something or I'm saying something or something, or I'm bitter about something. All of those things.
Yeah.
Like that's not my top value is authenticity. So that's not who I want to be.
Right.
Who I am. It's not serving me. I'm letting that go, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think really we talk to ourselves more than we talk to anybody else. So you might make that a more positive conversation is really hard for women. And it's also just really hard. And so I think anytime you can work on that, that just improves
Yeah.
things.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. If we had a playback of what we said to ourselves every day, I know. It'd be horrible.
Never say these things to other people.
I know. I know. It's kind of unbelievable. Yeah, and you talked a little bit about happiness habits. So exercise, I mean, when we teach Hope, I'm like, we have our stress hormones. We need some stress. How do we get these stress hormones in healthy ways, but not too much so that we're burnt out? And then I look at our happy hormones. How do we get those in healthy ways? Because we can get them from things like being a bully or being angry or violent or. So how do we get our dopamine or serotonin and oxytocin in healthy ways? So exercise is one way for you. It sounds like connecting with people and your son and
Or I think it's authentic relationships,
yeah,
say that I'm on a corporate detox. As a vice president, you have a lot of inauthentic relationships. And it's not just part of the job, it's also that people are nice to you because of your position.
right.
They are inspired by you because of your position or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And they gave me beautiful retirement parties. Applied is an amazing company with incredible employees. I have nothing but love. But everybody's like, oh my gosh, there's 150 people. People love you. And I'm like, just wait 6 months. The 10 people that I'm talking to. Because I had left before, got to a different company for a minute because I was trying to save my life because I was working myself to death. But anyway, and it is about 10, right? And so during Bill's trials and tribulations, we had Team Cooper and we actually named it, and it was going to be Lieutenant Bill was getting new lungs, like Lieutenant Dan, you got new legs from Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
And we were going to do t-shirts, and because I would have to drop my child off every time we went to the emergency room with my neighbor. I mean, he's been farmed out everywhere in the neighborhood. And so, yeah, I still have Team Cooper. And now I'm the mom that can help all the other moms.
Aw.
go pick the boys up. I can go run and do the thing. I can go, my friend's having a birthday tonight, and I'm like, I'm going to go get stuff for margaritas because I can. Like, I hate you. I'll be there right when my work is over. So yeah, I think time with friends has definitely been a place for joy. And then we travel. We traveled when Bill was sick. I just packed all that equipment up. I would call the hotel beforehand. I would say we need special filtration. I would say we need a refrigerator. I would say we need the local hospital. We need I would just plan it all. And we went, girl. We went. We went.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
I know. Now we stayed here during COVID. Obviously, we were scared to death during COVID.
Yeah.
Because it's a lung disease and Bill had a lung disease. But yeah, we actually during COVID we did travel one time for 2 weeks and went to the mountains of Oklahoma and just hiked, and we were not around other people, but yeah, we went. We are not staying here. We're making memories.
Yeah. I don't even know. You could ask for like refrigerators and filtered water and
You can. I mean, you got to stay at a nice hotel.
Oh yeah, right.
But yeah, you can.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And if they say no, then you can't go to their hotel. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. Well, what a journey you've been on and how much you have to teach others.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sounds like you're doing the work, which is what life is all about. It doesn't,
No choice.
things don't happen the way we necessarily want or plan or any of that. And it's learning how to, navigate our way through to the best of our ability.
And knowing that you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. That anyone can.
Anyone. Exactly. And anyone can. And there is somebody out there who has almost the exact experience.
Yeah. So true.
There's no one that has the unique story, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that really, because grief is so lonely.
Yeah.
One of the hardest parts is that you're just like, I am the only one that feels this way.
Yeah.
It's just not true.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, absolutely. Well, Michelle, it's been so wonderful chatting with you and learning from you and just getting to know you. Is there anything else you want to share? Can you share again the coaching that you're doing and your website and how people can learn about you?
Yeah, it's the mappco.com, and the M and the C in my logo is my husband's handwriting. So one of the amazing things about Bill is, when you look at the traditional definition of success, he was in roughly the same job for 20 years. And so people would say, well, he wasn't that successful, right? Or what my old definition of success was. And what Bill was successful at is giving unconditional love to everyone. He was the most non-judgmental person. And so when we had his celebration of life, 200 people came from all over the place. Several of them I didn't know. Right? I just did word of mouth. Everybody's welcome. Please come. And so in my coaching business, that's really what I want to emulate is I want to internalize some of the way he went about his life because I think it was so special. And so the coaching is really for everyone. It's not, I'm certainly going to have a rate structure, but if you can't pay, if you're working for a nonprofit, if you're a teacher, if you're, not employed, I want to help. And so my mission is really to help as many people as I can at a depth that's meaningful with the minutes I have left, given that time doesn't give a, what, he's moving on. So yeah, I want to provide meaningful coaching for people so that they can reach their full potential. Sort of that beginning conversation we were having so that they're seen, heard, and have a safe place. Certainly not a therapist, so this is career coaching, but yeah, if you're interested, I would love to talk to you.
Oh my gosh, what a gift. That is amazing.
I'm not working very much.
I see. Better hurry up. Yeah. That's really incredible. And what a great way to carry on his legacy, too. I love that. I mean, we carry people that we've lost with us.
Yes.
It took me so long to figure that out.
Thank goodness.
With us, we bring their legacy, forward. So, yeah, that's amazing. And, what we know about hope is if you write it down and then you check in with someone regularly, you're up to 95% more likely to achieve it. So, having a coach is so important and so helpful. So that's incredible.
It's so fun. It hasn't one of the tenets of the Berkeley methodology is being open to outcome.
Mhm.
What I had in my mind, a mere 6 months ago for this coaching business and what it is turning into, not the same. But I
Yeah.
mean, that's great, that's what I wanted, so
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for joining today, for talking with us, for sharing your story, your experience, and helping us with some strategies on navigating life when life gets challenging, as it does, in so many ways. And thank you all listeners for listening in. You are not alone. There is support out there. And, no matter what life brings, you have to keep shining. The more challenges, the more you have to shine. So much love to you all, and have a wonderful day.
thank you.
Thank you. So thank you all for listening in to the Hope Matrix podcast. We want to shine a light that hope is teachable, hope is measurable and teachable, and provide you with actionable insights for how you can start activating hope in your life today, and provide a framework so you can start talking about hope with other people and practice these skills together, because we are better with hope. Please feel free to check out theshinehopecompany.com, where we list all of our resources around how to hope. We have a lot of free programs for how to hope, including the 5-day challenge, our hope infographic with a lot of skills that showcase how to hope, and articles of how to incorporate hope into your life. We have the Hope Beat Weekly, which is a weekly newsletter that shares strategies for hope. We have a My Hope Story template, so you can write your own hope story today. Also, My Hope Hero, so we can share what our heroes are doing to activate hope in their lives. And this is especially good with youth, so they can start looking up to people that have overcome similar challenges to them and seeing how these heroes use the Shine Hope framework. We have a Hopeful Minds for Teens program, a Hopeful Minds overview, educator guides. We have a new evidence-based college course, so you can activate hope on the college campus. There are programs in the workplace, overview courses, 90-minute courses for learning the what, why, and how to hope. What I want you to know about hope is it's a skill. You've got to practice these skills to become hopeful. It's easy to fall into despair and helplessness when we deal with challenges in life, and it takes intentional work and practice to get to hope. And yet it is always possible. So no matter what life brings, keep shining hope. Thanks so much for listening in. Have an awesome day. And of course, I've got to add that this program is designed to assist you in learning about hope. It should not be used for medical advice, counseling, or other health-related services. I, Fred, the Shine Hope Company, and myself, Kathryn Goetzke, do not endorse or provide any medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I am not a medical doctor. The information provided here should not be used for the diagnosis or treatment of any medical condition, and cannot be substituted for the advice of physicians, licensed professionals, or therapists who are familiar with your specific situation. Consult a licensed medical profession or call 911 if you are in need of immediate assistance. And be sure to know the crisis hotline, 988, if you are in need of support. Thanks a bunch for listening. Take good care of yourself and keep shining hope.